We're good. Okay. I will call the meeting to order. We will start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the board wants to provide ample opportunity for public comment on matters that come before us. Your input is important. If you wish to address an item already on the agenda, we ask that you do so when that item comes up for discussion. If you have a comment on a matter not on the agenda, this is the time during our meeting for such comments. The board would like to remind everyone in attendance that to avoid violations of individual rights of privacy, a member of the public wishing to address the board during this time will not be allowed to make comments about any student, staff member, or member of the general public. Does anyone wish to speak at this time? You have to stand up, state your name.
I'm Jennifer Wyatt. I am mostly concerned about security. I've witnessed a couple of adults walking inside doors myself, but I have a friend who has been at the school. She was there several days in a row and just went and picked a different side door every day, and every door was unlocked. The front door is great, the security is great, I've been there several times and that's awesome, but it doesn't do a lot of good if you can walk in the side doors. So that makes me nervous. And then, yeah, I'm just here because I'm also a proponent of the 4-day school weeks and would love to hear what that entails as far as like how the schedule will change and pros and cons.
Okay.
Which I know that's not on the agenda today.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
My name is Frederick Woodry, and I'm here to comment about the hours that the public has access to the library. It's supposed to be a community library, but we're only given 25% access to the public to this library. 75% is a school library, I guess, or something like that. Now, I want to know why. The Helena Public Library is 8 to 8. Bowden Public Library is similar. They're undergoing renovations. And if anybody's been in an MSU library or the University of Montana, they're open until 12 o'clock at night. This is not a, well, I won't make any more comments about that particular. Anyhow, people need a place to where to go to read a book, and then it's a climate change going on in the summertime. It's hot outside, and you need a place where you can go and be on your computer or read your book and have access. I guess I'll end it there for now.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
I'm Grace Flynn, and I have some concerns about the use of Chromebooks, even at young ages. I have been a substitute teacher in a couple classes that I feel like there might not be some good use of the Chromebooks, and I think that I have a concern that maybe the kids aren't getting the right education that they need through the Chromebooks. Maybe a little bit more hands-on pen and paper work would be better for them instead of going to YouTube and watching music videos instead of doing the work. That's it. I'm also a proponent for a 4-day. That's
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay.
I was just going to ask a question. Was the comment around, and I didn't, my apologies, elementary, middle school, high school? What?
Yes, I've actually witnessed also the use of cell phones in high school and the Chromebooks, YouTube videos being played in 4th grade.
Okay, so elementary school is what you're specifically. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other correspondence?
Nope.
Okay. Items of discussion, the elementary building project. Mr. Whitney.
Yeah, thank you. So first, I'll give an update on the design for the 2 new classrooms, possible addition. So that was completed, and we're gonna get some pricing, and we'll have that pricing available for the November 8th board meeting. So that'll be coming forward for your consideration at that time. So making good progress on that. The phase 2 project for the connector, the move-in date has slipped until December 15th, but that's still before the holidays, which will be key, so we can get moved in over the holidays and be able to use that space. The operable partition that will go in that music room, we were notified that ship date has slipped until March, so we'll have everything with that partition as it stands right now. So progress is going really good overall. The Cinemark Roofing is here this week, completing the metal roof over those 4 middle school classrooms. And they'll be back next week to finish that. And then the only piece of that roof project that we'll have left will be those skylights, which are a long lead time item for the library here. And then phase 2 of that insurance project will get bid out for the high school and be done next summer, as always. The high school ESSER HVAC project, we got the panels for the welding shop and got those installed yesterday and today. So we got the full use of that welding shop now, so that'll be great. Clint's very excited, and I'm happy to see that part get done as well. Our unit ventilators have shipped, and they're scheduled to get here on Monday. So we'll cross our fingers, because shipping is always that variable we can't control, but when they land, we have a plan in place to start getting those installed immediately. And it'll be nice, because next week there's no school on Thursday and Friday, which allow greater access for the contractor, and they'll definitely take advantage of that. So that's kind of what I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'll add one thing on that removable partition. We did discuss today that they would build a temporary soundproof to cover that opening, so at least the kids, they would be able to move in and utilize, that music room. We just wouldn't have that ability to open it up into the commons. But I think having access to the space is the key point, and DAC was willing to, work on that because of the delay in that component. So that was good to hear. I was glad to hear our roofers are back here and getting those issues taken care of. It's definitely time on that. So, any other questions?
That temporary wall, I guess, is that additional cost or a small additional cost, or is it just part of the project?
Everything's got a cost, I guess.
I suspect.
Yes, yeah. We didn't talk numbers. The question is around the priority of how much we want to use the space. If we want to use the space, we got to build a temporary wall. The temporary wall is going to cost a little bit of money.
Something. Okay.
It would not be a lot, but
okay.
That's
thank you very
pretty
much.
vague answer.
Definite maybe.
Yep.
Where does the library roof fall under? That still needs some attention, right?
You talking the roof or the ceiling?
Well, both, I guess.
The roof is done.
Okay.
They still have to come back and fix the screw holes that went too far. So that is still on them to do. That part's not done. And the skylights still have to be done. But the roof itself over the library is complete. They're still working on some of even the trim on the library is actually done, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So
done, yeah.
the only thing the library still has is the skylights to do. And that will be next summer that those get done.
I did take the construction crew through on Tuesday after we had our library board meeting that previous Monday, and I showed them all the concerns. And so we're gonna make sure that those get taken care of. There are some repairs that need to be made to the ceiling from some leaks that occurred while the roofing was.
Right,
being
and
done as well.
Rich and I, we went through that, and I know Rich addressed that with the crew as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
on the punch list.
Okay? Any other questions? Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Committee meetings.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
So just previous to this meeting, we had Melissa Franks here from the county and we met and Jeremy Rice with Bulldog Bus Lines is still here. We had a great discussion about transportation, had some great updates from him. And we updated our bus routes and just making sure we have all of our new stops and that everything's going smoothly. We talked about a formal drafted letter that he designed so that people can make a request for any new stops and that we can keep that documentation on file. And we just heard that it's going really well and he's been communicating with families and so we're really happy to have that. So we had that transportation committee meeting prior to this. We got all of that handled. He is going to work with us and I will work with all of you principals to plan our bus safety drills. So that's something that we need to get on the calendar. And then the next, anybody have anything to add to that, transportation members?
No, it was,
Thank you.
So the next one is the Student Services Committee. We need to meet regarding a few items in student activities. We've been talking about adding junior high golf and some of those kinds of things. And then we also are on the same committee under safety. And I think October 25th would be perfect if you guys can make that work because we have a school safety site assessment, October 24th and 25th. We are partnering with the U of M Safe Schools Center. Last spring, I wrote a grant for school safety professional development for our staff. And so Ms. Hartman and our school counselor and I went to the Butte Safe Schools Summit in over the summer. And that's how we learned about the resources that U of M has. And so they're going to do an assessment of our whole entire district, of our whole site. And we thought that was really important with the new building as well. And they'll be here for 2 days. So that Monday and that Tuesday. So I thought if we could meet after that and kind of give you guys an update or talk about what our next steps are as safety committee, that would be a good time to get together.
There's a Title I parent meeting that night,
Right, not until 6:30 though.
6:30.
Yeah.
Okay. What time is this one then?
We don't have a set time,
Okay.
but that was a hope. Maybe we could do it at 5:30 or
And that's
something like that.
Tuesday?
Yeah.
That's Tuesday.
So
5:30.
I have like the 25th and 26th on the calendar.
They changed it.
They changed it. Okay, I'll get that changed.
thank you. Yeah, they changed it and it's on my note here. It's on my superintendent report on the back.
Awesome.
They changed it to they could come Monday and Tuesday.
Perfect. I'll get it up.
So we'll learn more about what that means. They'll talk about, areas we need to work on, entrances, different kinds of things like that. I will tell you that a big part of that right now is kind of the phase we are in construction, that we will have the same security system at the high school front doors that we have at the elementary. We're waiting for installers. We have the parts here. So we are definitely working in that direction and trying to get everyone trained to make sure we don't prop doors open, we don't have side doors open. That's the whole goal. And with the professional development grant that we have, we'll do a lot of training with the staff and we're rewriting our crisis plan. So all of that will be addressed over this next year. So this is one of our first steps. We're really excited that we've got on their agenda and they'll be doing a 2-day visit with us. So
Can I address that?
Yeah.
I appreciate you pointing those out. I've actually got some ideas running through my brain, I think how we can adjust right now, even with construction to make it better. So I think there's some things we can do now.
Was that in the elementary?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then upcoming committees to schedule. I know that we want to get back together as a curriculum committee. I think it'd be great to hear how the new the new curriculums are working out in the elementary school. And then we also need to talk about what we're going to tackle next and where we're at with our curriculum. And then, of course, negotiations will be here before we know it. So I think we could start having some conversations and doing some research. So those are just dates that we need to plan for. So I'll send out some calendar. Maybe we can do a doodle poll or something like that and see when you guys would like to have those meetings.
Very good. Any questions on the committee meetings? No. Okay. Consent action items, minutes and warrants.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent action items as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent action items as presented. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just had some quick questions. All looks good. Just for clarification, the Denning, Downing Associates CPAs auditor services, I was just looking at some of the bigger ticket items, and I wasn't sure what that was.
Okay, so for part of the closing, the 40, I believe it's 4,600.
20,
One of them's larger, one of them's
21,
smaller.
21,845.
Okay, that one was for the audit services, for them coming in and helping us to reconcile with accounting.
Oh, okay,
And the other
Okay,
one was
okay.
to,
Okay.
create the GASB report needed for the closing.
okay, I didn't notice the other. And then and then I think this is just clarification stuff too. Let's see, Pine Cove Consulting, of course, this is a lot of this happened, a lot of the billing for the networking components, the IT components in the elementary, this is probably part of that, I suspect. Pine Cove Consulting, that amount for 29,580, and the switches, so that's one question. Then the switches, APs for the elementary, 27,237. And then we planned on many of these costs regardless. I understand this. We planned on it. Was that all the new ones, the new switches and APs that came in? Or because some of those came in earlier than we were anticipating. Some of these were scheduled to come in February, I think, or March.
So all of those, we had the money encumbered. I believe that you can probably answer better, but do you see where it has the PO accounting lines right under those?
Yeah,
That was for the money that was set aside for the switches.
okay.
And they had the purchase order number on the invoices to make sure it was put in correctly.
Okay, so it's holding it, so to speak.
Mhm.
Okay. And the installation and configuration, was that what cost, and that was down 1, 2, 3 lines below the switches AP line item. So the installation and configuration, that was for Pine Cove coming in and setting the system up.
Correct, and they've since done that, completed that work.
And that was a 2 or 3 day setup, several
Well, they
people,
ended up having to come up several times.
several times. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Okay, I think what we're gonna do here is shuffle some things around real quick because we've got a fairly lengthy agenda. We've got some people that have taken their time to come in here. So I'm going to move the policy up to the front of the line here so that we can have that discussion, so that they can all move on with their evening if they so desire. I would like to move into the policy 3510 discussion, please.
this was changed after the main packet. So it's on a separate agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, just
I got
making
it.
sure everybody has the right.
I couldn't find it
agenda.
the first time, but I found it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Susie, I don't know if you want to lead off or,
Sure. So we have some information here regarding policy 3510 as well as Senate Bill 157. And there has been some discussion and there's also information from the handbook here. There has been some discussion and there's been desire from some parents and family members to allow homeschool students to attend the extracurricular activities and specifically under activities, dances. So this can get pretty complicated. I did talk to the attorneys a little bit about it, and it sounds like schools have gone either direction because of the interpretation of Senate Bill 157. It leaves some room for schools and local school boards to decide which way to go with this. So I did also pass out to you the information from the school district, what's included in the student handbook. The dance guest pass contract, which might help, if anybody would like a copy of that, I can put some up here as well. Is that okay, please? Yeah, so this is the contract that is in the student handbook that has to be filled out to bring someone to the dance, and there's also information there on some of the thoughts and perspectives from the staff and administration at the high school. So I will go ahead and turn it back to you, Chairman, and then if anybody would like me to read what I got from Andrew with MTSBA or anything like that, just let me know. I think I've shared most of the information with you guys in this packet within the options in the policy and the highlighted portions of the student handbook and Senate bill that are under question.
okay. I would actually turn it over to Vanessa. Vanessa's the one that requested this be added to the agenda. It's kind of started this discussion, so I will let her open with if she would desire.
Okay. Well, we got an email and I got another phone call a couple weeks ago maybe about this again. And I guess bottom line, it seems like a blatant discrimination. And yet another double standard in our policies. I think especially with the new law, and how we approve kids to participate in sports, I think we can do the same thing for the dances. I don't know why we would want to cling to the exclusivity that this bill seems to be doing the opposite of, is including these homeschool students. And I don't know, I would just like us to be more open to them. Like I said, in our own experience, the thing that changed my own son's mind was actually being in the building with his peers, and it was like a light switch for him. He was like, no, I definitely want to be back there. And I don't know why we wouldn't be welcoming them with the hopes that they might eventually make that same decision also. So,
Okay. I guess next I would go to principal and talk about, past practice and why maybe the policy is as it is presently.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, by no means is it meant to be discriminatory or excluding people. Basically, the history of the policy, pretty wide open, several years ago, quite honestly, where it was it was open. We did allow, homeschool students to come, some enrolled students that weren't even in different schools and that. And we, for 3 or 4 years, just had numerous very serious problems and issues. And the two biggest things, you know, and I tried to script this out really well because I wasn't sure if I was going to be here for this part or not because I'm running back and forth to volleyball. But the biggest issue is accountability, and then the thoughts and definitions surrounding the difference between extracurricular activities, the MHSA sponsored things, which now we know by law, you know, we are bringing homeschoolers into, to the actual activities that link to our curriculum, our staff, our culture, the environment of the day-to-day of our high school, and that school family and the folks that are in it every day. The clubs and the organizations that are organizing all of those activities, the supervision that goes into it. And that's how we ended up changing the policy. We had several issues and problems that were pretty serious. The biggest problem is, and I signed, trust me, we have a very, as you can see on the back, we have a guest form. It goes to a lot of places and gets signed by a lot of folks. And one of the most important signatures is that visiting guests admin at their high school, because then there's some accountability. We know they're in good standing. Our own students have to be in good standing. I sign many of these for our students to go to other schools. And that's the piece that's missing when we have somebody who's not enrolled or a homeschool student. Yes, I wish every parent was really super responsible and could sign off that their student is not going to cause us any problems, but that's not always the case. So as we found out, the current policy we have in place has been very effective. We have had 0 problems with our guests that come to our dances here at the school. So, you know, I did get input from our staff because honestly, things have changed. And I know with the new law, obviously, we want to be current with what we're doing at our school. As Ms. Helen said, it's very open to a lot of interpretations about what the differences are between those things. You know, if a student's in our, as you know, even Vanessa knows, her son's now in the high school with us and doing the day-to-day with his peers. The student council, all those kids, all of those meetings take place during the school day. All of the preparation and the planning and all of those things take place as part of our school climate, culture, and environment. So those are the 2 biggest distinctions, you know, being able to give ownership to our students for those activities. So that's really the two points on that as far as discussion. Are there possibly other scenarios or options? Yes. The staff definitely feel, and I'm not just speaking from my own self, these pretty much unanimously, the high school staff feels pretty strongly about the difference between those 2 things. So just, that's kind of where, you know, we are with it as far as that goes. Hopefully that makes sense. It was better scripted out here, sorry.
And just for the record, I know you kind of, you know, this discussion was focused more on prom and some of those larger events, but in the middle school, we do have, our handbook does say Townsend Middle School students only. We don't have any process by which you guys can come even, so just for what it's worth.
Well, I don't think there are any homeschool kids that are wanting to come and crash the dance. I think all of the complaints I've heard is they've been invited by a current student, just like any of these other kids. And I know they don't come from a traditional school, but I mean, we have, there's a lot more non-public school kids where they do have someone who can vouch for them. And we have the superintendent of schools. They could verify that they're at least going through the motions they should be, or
Well,
you
and
know,
just,
a
I just
grade
want to
check.
clarify too, so anybody who did come previously as a homeschool student had to do one of these too. So just so you know, anybody would have to do that, so we have contact numbers, that's how I was able to call parents to say, come pick up your kids. So it's not that they were just crashing, they were invited as well, but there
Okay.
were issues. So just to make that, I just want to make sure that that's clear.
So when was the last time a homeschooler was allowed to attend?
When did we update that policy? I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, maybe? Pre-COVID, I would say before that, 3 or 4 years ago.
I don't know, I guess it seems to me if they're gonna be guests allowed, if they're not high school age, that's a different thing, but if they're coming to hang out with their teammates that they play basketball or run cross-country with, I don't understand why that's an issue.
And I was just going to mention, as I recall, I think it was 2017 or 2018 that, and I don't
Yeah, I think it was before my time.
yeah.
More than likely. It's
But
few
what
years
was
ago.
that?
That's like
It was
27
before the
yeah.
three of us got on board.
Yeah, it was 2017 or 18, so it could well have been 2017 because, yeah, you guys probably started about
It's
2018,
been
right?
a few years
Do
ago.
you
Yeah, it's been a
have, do
few
you
years.
have anything you can add to that discussion based on?
Probably pull it up really quick.
I that's
I
asking.
mean, and
I couldn't tell you if it was yesterday, so.
And just so everybody knows too, I mean, it certainly isn't just focused, I don't want it to be misconstrued that it's only focused for homeschool kids. That's not it. It's the students that we don't have that administrative sign off on. And so, I mean, there were issues with other students too, not just homeschool. I'm not saying it was exclusively just homeschool
Yeah.
students. There were issues with other students too as well. Honestly, when talking to the high school staff and getting input from them, they said they would like to see it be modified even further to where not even a BHS graduate. If you're not currently enrolled in our high school or another high school, you shouldn't be coming to a high school activity. So that's some of the input I got from them as well. So just
Well, that was part of the conversation at the time too,
right.
was that point. At what point are they not allowed, even guests from older, well, they'd have to be in order for bear with me. So even for any guest at this point in time with this policy, that they have to have some kind of administrative write-off, check-off, if you will.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Unless there's two, they can be an enrolled high school student, which means that gives our school district the other administrative support, meaning this student is in good standing, you should have no problems with them. And if we did, then we have some recourse, we have some accountability. The other side of it is a BHS graduate under the age of 21. And the only reason that obviously the 21 part's easy to figure out. The graduate part was, we have those scenarios where we have maybe a graduate dating a current senior or something, and they were our students. I still can approve or disapprove. So if that student graduated, but they were a lot of trouble, I'm probably not going to approve them to come anyways because we don't want any problems. Does that make sense? But if they are, it's just mainly because we know them and I can sign off on them. I can say, I know this kid, I know this isn't going to be an issue. We had one of those at the recent homecoming dance. A graduate from last year came back and came with one of our other students, but we know her, you know what I'm saying? She just graduated last year and it obviously was a non-issue. So that's where that fills out, Sean, if that helps.
yes, thank you.
So what about the students that are enrolled high school students in an online program?
They're not enrolled in an actual bricks and mortar high school where there's an administrator. So no. I know I got a question about one of those just recently too. Same thing, there's no accountability.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Just state your name, please.
Sorry, Roger Flynn. So am I to understand that a high schooler from Boulder can attend a prom, but a local homeschool student cannot?
Yes.
And that's only because of an administrative sign-off?
It's because there's an accountability process by which we can have a sign off from another administrator saying that student's in good standing. Yes.
And if they get in trouble here, there'll probably be consequences at their home
Yes.
school as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, we're not the only school that does. It's, as Ms. Hedlund said, schools can go both ways with it. Most of the schools that I know of are on the same track as we are as of now. Whether it's right or wrong, that's where we are, for the same reasons.
I'm trying to find the old policy.
Yeah,
But this
yeah.
new policy is revised to meet the new law.
Yeah.
And it says, one option is to require the same requirements for students participating in sports activities, to attend other activities such as a dance. However, a district may also choose not to allow the participation in school dances because they're not referenced in the law. So those are a couple of the options.
And I do get your point, Vanessa, and I certainly, this obviously is not personal. It comes from a job perspective and an administrative perspective. Obviously, I have my own feelings, but, I get what you're saying about if we've already gone through the process to allow them to participate. So maybe that's something to look at. If the student's already gone through the process to participate in our extracurriculars at the high school, whether it's volleyball or cross country or whatever, we do have some of those pieces in place. So that may be one consideration, that if they're already cleared to participate, because that's an approval, non-approval thing as well, then the piece of, yes, we've checked with the county superintendent. We know they're enrolled in as a home school. We know what curriculum they're using. We know what, I understand that. And that is a good point, Again,
I
though,
haven't
some of
talked-
that's kind of loose too. There's still so much, homes, I don't know, there's so much, it's so variable. I think that's a lot of it too, is just the variability of it all. When it's a slippery slope for sure with some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think it definitely does not make sense, and I haven't talked to a parent who thinks otherwise, that you could let homeschoolers participate in the sports and then turn around and say, no, we don't want you here for the dances.
Right. It's not that we don't want, that is not the intent at all.
Well, this
But
school,
I understand that perception. I understand that.
yeah, we have a reputation as being very unfriendly towards homeschoolers, and I hope we can change that.
Well, it seems, and maybe I speak incorrectly or out of turn or something, but those that are been approved for extracurricular activities, since there is a consequence to any negative actions, it seems in my mind as if that's a no-brainer.
That could be a caveat.
Yeah, for an approval.
And they also would have to be students within our district as well, because that's one of the requirements.
Yeah, right.
Districts.
Right. It seems to me to make a lot of sense
As far as
there.
compromises go, that's where my brain kind of went as well.
Yeah, because there is a consequence. If something happens, well, they get booted from a team or something like, there's a consequence. Any other, but I would ask as well, as far as accountability in those situations, other than that, is there, and I don't know, so I'm just asking the question, is there any accountability that could be defined through OPI, through any kind of digital program, any kind of anything else? And I'm just simply brainstorming and thinking out loud about that, because I understand. It seems,
Not that I'm aware of. And the way we use this guest list, I actually had a whole stack of them for the homecoming event that we just had. We do put it into an actual list, and then when they check in, we make sure that everybody's coming has been approved. And so we do take it seriously, and we are very diligent with it, so.
well, the other thing in my mind that should be just revisited, and not necessarily right now, are those over out of school, out of high school attending. I think we should revisit that. Definitely. And then the consequence of anybody acting out or acting badly during, a prom or any other event is that, what's the consequence when we shut down the prom?
But then that,
Or-
that
or-
negatively impacts everybody.
It does,
in
and that's
it.
the reason this is an important,
And
this is
that
an
would
important
negatively
point.
impact our school as well. We don't want to do that. That's
Right.
not fair either.
Absolutely,
But
but
there are a
that's the
bunch of-
reason. That's
There are a bunch of good homeschool kids who are keeping up and they're being negatively impacted by,
But
by
again,
some
you know,
other
we're
kids'
looking
bad
at the-
behavior.
The students that are enrolled students. I mean, those are the ones that we are over. And I get that. I get that.
How do we move forward?
I don't know if Todd's got anything he wants to add.
Well, I've had experiences on both sides of it. My daughter is a senior, had a boyfriend who graduated a year prior and had one opportunity where she was able to bring him and the other where she was not. And actually, I believe, without misspeaking, there was actually a third, which they decided that it wasn't worth the bother. I think that a clear statement in our policy that we treat, while it's somewhat nebulous in the law as to what is an extracurricular, that for our purposes of laying out a policy, that extracurricular means both sporting events, things like speech and debate, as well as school-sponsored functions. And that if somebody is, falls under the, Senate Bill 157 workings, having been involved as a homeschooler in extracurricular activities for that actually applies to school-oriented functions. But I think that affirmative statement that says that we treat the student, the homeschool student or whatever, because we say even in the activities that it is believed throughout our high school that participation in an extracurricular program is a privilege. The next part says the premises hold true even for our extracurricular and athletic programs. There right there is an inconsistency when you look at the language in Senate Bill 157. So I think that setting, however, it is that this board decides that setting an affirmative statement that says this is how we are going to address that does help lend some clarity. And as to the accountability part of it, with all due respect, I don't know that I necessarily buy that somebody signing off on somebody else as a character witness really adds to somebody's accountability. Somebody's either going to choose to be personally accountable or they're not. And if we engage, security for large things or inform the sheriff's department and we say, if you act out in a manner that is disruptive or a nuisance under, the criminal code, that is going to be a referral to the sheriff's department. So I don't know that the pool is open, everybody in aspect is appropriate, because I do think that students who have graduated, students that are, very close, say, in that 21 years of age mark, bring their own problems as adults that are a lot of times out and are not even, say, living in their own homes and that kind of thing. But
all I know, like I said, all I know is that since we revamped the policy and tightened it down a little bit, it's been super effective.
I
We've had
bet that
zero,
it would be.
we've had zero incidences.
If
I think
you're in isolation.
There is an accountability that has been real effective, so.
I think it's accountability through exclusion, or having positive experiences from the administrative perspective, and we certainly,
And and again, just expressing, this isn't my personal opinion, this is the opinion of, our staff, is that, we're obviously the ones that are supervising, we're obviously the ones chaperoning, we have our hands full, with 150 of our own high school kids, and I'm not saying that it's not okay. I'm not saying we can't look at maybe if somebody's already been approved to participate with our extracurriculars, that is an avenue to look at for sure. So, definitely.
Yeah, and maybe there, we have some things that are at a minimum inconsistent. And I think we're only as good as how it is that these things are presented both to our own students, to the parents of other students and just the public in general. So, I agree that, first and foremost, we need to be able to address our policy, and then our student handbook needs to meet that policy. But we don't direct policy based on the content of the student handbook. So, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that opportunity, but it is been, taking this information in, and yeah, I mean, this is an evolving issue. And I also, though, I don't necessarily agree that it's, blatantly discriminatory. I think that sometimes, being maybe necessarily ignorant of things, or as times change and legislatures and things like that give mixed messages, it puts districts in an untenable position. Sometimes we do try to do the best that we can, but we're also human and we need to be agile enough to make changes that fit the needs of the school at this time, the board, under its current makeup. So I'm certainly, willing to, look at that. And I guess, if that's something that we either, address at a future meeting, specifically look at the language and approve that on first reading, that's fine. I don't necessarily know that that's something that's going to be solved this evening.
And the language issue is difficult, and the definitions are difficult. It is. It's totally up to interpretation for sure.
Well, it's pretty wide open. The Montana Code annotated defined extracurricular activities as including but not limited to. So I think it's what we'll make of it.
Yeah, it's a non-exhaustive list.
Yeah, and I think in my mind too, equity is important, accountability for all. That includes those who have graduated, which doesn't seem to be, in my mind, accountable. After they graduate, there's no consequence other than legal, for instance. And I'd hope that maybe we could find a mark of accountability for those homeschoolers that are in good standing in some way. And I don't know what that target is, but I would hope that we could find something like that, so that whether you're coming in from Boulder or Three Forks or wherever, that it's equal and equitable for all. That's in my mind. Maybe Chris Goss might have some ideas. I don't know. We'll have a policy meeting soon.
They did send me, like I said, just a little bit of information on how other schools are interpreting it.
Yeah.
And then 3510 is kind of that I gave you guys is kind of the draft of what the new student activities policy will be.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the options in there for us to choose in order to be in accordance with Senate Bill 157.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we're also updating our handbooks to align with our new policies. So we will get there. So I guess a big question of mine is events we have coming up now, because I know that Vanessa, wants to make sure that we come to a decision, and make this decision before more students are impacted, and just haven't figured out one way or the other. So what upcoming events? I know we have the Halloween dance, but you said that no guests are allowed.
No, we've never, out of district, out of our thing says Townsend Middle School students only.
Okay.
And we've never, had any provisions for guests of any kind to come.
Okay. And how about high school? What do we have coming up? Not till prom?
There's a potential of, student council was talking about a winter formal, which hit last year, like in, I want to say March, because of all the postseason stuff happening in February with basketball and that, depending on when prom is set. We don't quite have prom dates set, so it wouldn't be until next year. Sometime if we had if we're talking dances, that would probably be the next,
February, March-ish, something like that.
sometime in there.
Okay. So I guess my recommendation would be to continue working on the policy with Chris Goss and the handbook changes and continue to do the research and see if we have any other, input on it.
Jason, what about your input?
Well, I have, I guess, a little struggle picking a firm side on this. I guess, first off, I've always and continue to feel that there are certain privileges that should be reserved for kids that go to school. I've made it pretty clear I wasn't a fan of the MHSA thing, but that's out of our hands. So with that said, I also struggle with the part where we're selecting guests. I'm much more a fan of the middle school policy that just says we don't have guests.
Yeah, there's no ambiguity there.
Right, and that's what I think we probably need to get to, because I do think we put ourselves in a tough position, obviously, because we're here tonight discussing that, because it's not a clear line. And so I do think we need to clean that up. Again, I still think there needs to be some certain things that are a privilege that come with attending the public school. And these items, in my mind, are one of the last of those few things that we have in our grasp to work with, because obviously athletics is not in our control anymore. Again, but I clearly see, Vanessa's point, these kids that we've already cleared to come in and play sports in the building, we've taken that step, to sideline them on this other issue. I just think it's not good. It's not good for us, and we definitely need to clean it up. So we either need to draw a hard line, in my mind, one way or the other. But yeah, obviously we don't have our current policy. We have the model policy that we're looking at. But even when I look through that policy, I don't think there's anything in it that we would technically have to change. It really is going to come more down, in my mind, to what we have in our student handbook to reflect. But maybe Todd agrees or disagrees. I do, because I briefly going through the policy, there's nothing in there that we would need to change that language to comply with whatever we do. But I guess, yes, you may.
Thank you. Carrie Harper, and I'm here on behalf of my daughter. I have a hard time believing that all school students cause issues.
I didn't say all.
That's how it sounded.
I didn't say all, I said some. Not all non-enrolled students cause problems either.
I have a wonderful daughter. She would not cause any problems. I signed off on the form that we tried to turn in so that she could come to this dance. If I'm signing off on it, I'm taking responsibility for my daughter. So if she would have caused any problems, I would have been responsible, just like any administrator at any other school would have. So I have a hard time believing that it would have been an issue. And I have a hard time with you even trying to push out anybody visiting it, because the Montana Antidote Code says extracurricular activities. And if you look up what extracurricular activities, it's anything organized through the school, not during school hours, is an extracurricular activity. Therefore, if you push and don't allow anybody to do anything, I think you're going to open a can of worms. I did talk to a representative today about this, and he told me that by not allowing homeschool students to come to these activities, you are breaking the law. And he told me if I had an issue to call him And I will do that if we can't get this settled, because I don't think the right thing is happening right now. My daughter decided to homeschool because of issues that were happening in the school. So she withdrew from the school to take herself out of that situation. Now, she was invited to a dance by a boy, and we signed the paper that you needed, and she was not allowed to come. And I don't think that is right in any way. I'm trying to stay calm, I'm sorry. So I really wish that you would reconsider the line of questioning, the direction you are going in this, because I do feel like she and other homeschoolers are being discriminated against. And it's not just for dances. They should be able to do any activity that is organized through the school after school hours. I understand she can't be in anything during the school, and I don't have a problem with that. And if issues can be changed as to what has happened to her in the past, she'll come back to school. But until then, I really wish you would reconsider the way you're thinking about handling this. Thank you.
Thank you.
So in short, we'll need to follow up. That's the end game for tonight.
Correct.
No,
You know,
we-
we have been, in talks with, MTSBA lawyers, and so there's obviously contradiction there. But I think we need to clean up the line.
Yeah.
One way or the other. And I think through completing our policy process with MTSBA and addressing the handbooks, I think we have the opportunity, and we will get there. Because I don't think we have, the means or the tools to correct it tonight.
Right.
And Mr. Chairman, we would, and just for the sake of Ms. Harper or Ms. Wyatt and Mr. Flynn, for instance, when we go through a policy review or we're entertaining changes to a policy, unless we suspend our rules to allow action to happen on a first reading only, it's typically a first reading, the proposal, the discussion of a policy, motion to approve it on a first reading, and then at the next board meeting, discussion, and based on that discussion, there can be changes made and a motion to consider approval of it on a second reading. So it's not something that would be made, a decision here tonight unless there was a motion to suspend basically our ordinary policy adoption schedule to allow hearing that on first read, which we did for, say, COVID policies and school safety policies that were kind of born out of that. But so it's not necessarily a bureaucratic kind of a process. We don't work at congressional speed, but it is something that actually takes some time.
And there are a couple of key points that need to be hammered out as well. And we can't do that overnight, so to speak.
No, and these kinds of decisions are receive this kind of information, reflect on it, and kind of internalize that. And, we're not looking at making a decision in the heat of the moment.
I guess one final thought. While homeschoolers may not be as invested as the kids that go here, we're still stakeholders in that we pay taxes to support the school as well. So it's not like we're an elite school that has a waiting list to get into. It's still a public school, but.
Okay. Any additional thoughts or comments? Okay.
No, I think it's important for us to continue this work. Obviously, we have policy meetings coming up with MTSBA, and we're working through correcting and updating all of our policies and handbooks. So this work will be done under that and should be done before the next events that it would impact, so.
And so the next policy meetings will be somewhere along the lines of first week in November,
Yeah.
second week maybe, when Chris has time with the new baby?
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
Very good.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
thank you. First action item, approve bus driver stipends.
Let's see.
So I would like to continue to pay the bus driver stipends while we have the funding under ESSER and ELC grant to do so. We are still waiting to hear if we are being awarded the round 3 of the ELC funding. I did reach out to them today and did not hear back yet. But I was hoping to have known by now, so have my fingers crossed on that. But what I wrote into the ELC grant number 3 was additional duty pay for our bus drivers, our kitchen staff, our janitors, because of those critical positions that we have a shortage in at this time and that have additional duties due to COVID for cleaning and sanitation, those sorts of things. So that's how I wrote the ELC grant. This time I was less focused on the health coordinator who we had before, Kate, and her salary and COVID testing, more focused on keeping enough staff that we can keep things clean and sanitary, and have also purchased supplies to minimize the spread of infection. So we applied for that $100,000 and we're waiting to get that. So we do still have some ELC funding left, and then obviously our ESSER fund. So I'd like to continue to pay that additional stipend to the bus drivers for this school year.
What do they get paid right now? On a typical trip?
That's a good question.
They all have their own hourly rate, and once they have driven so many trips or so many hours a year, the next year they get to bump up to the next pay rate.
Okay.
So it kind of depends how many years and how many hours that they have driven.
So this would be on top of, say a 10-hour trip at $10 an hour, $100 bill plus 30 is okay. Okay. So I move to approve the $30 per trip additional duty pay for bus drivers for the 22-23 school year.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the $30 per trip additional duty pay for bus drivers for the 2022-2023 school year. Is there any discussion?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Helena, you referenced kitchen and janitorial additional duty pay. This is only for bus drivers.
Yes, I am, we wrote this into the budget that was approved by you already. I will not have the funding to pay the additional duties, pay to the janitors and kitchen staff unless we are awarded that ELC grant.
Okay. Thank you. I want to make sure I didn't mix the two messages. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, one question or clarification I have. I know last year talking with, our kind of head guy that, some of the drivers were maybe not completing those extra tasks. I just want to make sure there is something in place that they are completing those tasks in order to justify receiving the stipend.
Yes, I did talk to him and he said the buses have been cleaned.
Okay.
So Ed Schindel wasn't here to give an update. We have had a little bit of damage to a couple of buses lately, but they have been cleaned. So.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approve wage increase for after-school program director and staff.
Can I just clear that, because I think mine actually is director, she is coordinator. Because mine says director on it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Katie Goodman is the coordinator of the after-school program, and we are currently operating under the ARP ESSER after-school grant, and it needs to be used up by December. And then we'll talk about the next part next, but that is the current funding stream we're operating under. And and Christina can speak to this as well, but Katie Goodman is the coordinator currently, so she's doing all the lesson planning. I've checked in on the after-school program and seen the activities they're doing. They're doing a lot of STEAM activities and enrichment lessons. She's doing all the prep work for that and doing all the activity planning and having that all prepared for the after-school staff. So Mrs. Hartman brought this to me. She would like to see the coordinator paid $20 per hour. It was previously $15. And then the staff that are working, she would like to see them get that 50-cent raise that the other staff got if this is their second year working in the after-school program. So the staff would go up to $15.50 if they have a year of experience. And the coordinator would get the $20 an hour for going above and beyond and doing the designing of the lesson plans and that extra work.
And there's a lot to those designing because with the grant, you had to incorporate physical and social emotional, and then, other areas, whether it's STEAM or something. So it's not just, they do an activity. There's actually, after a snack, then they go do their physical, then they have their SEL, or if it's tied together, but they have to have all those pieces in there every night.
Yeah, and like I mentioned in the paragraph here, I didn't read the whole thing off, but they have additional duties such as lesson planning, paperwork, data entry, shopping, budget management. So that's kind of what goes into the thought that they should be getting paid at the greater wage.
How many?
Because they have to help keep all that organized
Yeah.
so that Christina can complete the major reports.
How many hours per week is I guess both the coordinator and then the assistants typically?
Well, normally the coordinator is, they work every night. So it's 15 hours a week plus their prep time. And then the after-school program is 15 hours. So, but every person, because if they're already a para, they're limited. They can only work one night based on their hours. So it depends on who's working and how many hours they can work.
I'll move to approve the after-school coordinator wages at $20 per hour and the staff that are second-year employees at $15.50.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the after-school coordinator wages at $20 per hour and the staff that are second-year employees at $15.50. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, one question, please. So we're paying wages now through the after-school grant. What do we do in next year or the year after? Do we transition hopefully then to 21st century?
Yeah, I went slightly out of order here, but that'll be not the next, but the next agenda item.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
talk
I
should have put them back to back, I apologize.
Okay. That's all right. I just get a little concerned.
Yeah.
As we all do, we've had this discussion because of ESSER and ARPA
Yeah.
and all these awesome acronyms for government funding, setting us up for kind of an unfunded mandate.
Yeah, we've got to think about sustainability.
Right. Yeah. In another word, yeah. So, but okay. So,
And this was kind of an interesting one because the art after school grant was pretty large and had a very small time window to spend the funds.
and they just only have to be identified by December, correct? Or
No, we have.
we actually have to spend it down?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we have a timeline for it in the office, that we're paying close attention to. And that's why we saw like some of the switches and stuff had been obligated because we've already closed out ESSER one. So we're keeping close eyes on those.
Okay.
But I know, one of the superintendents I was just talking to this week, at a school smaller than ours, they're, and having the same problems as we are employing people in certain positions, like the after school program one can be hard. So they're actually doing $25 an hour for their teachers and a way to get their teachers some additional monies. So they're using their teaching staff to run that after school program at $25 an hour with that ARPA grant.
Great.
So just kind of talked to some colleagues about that, so I don't think we're too far off.
And the reason, well, that was also my thought process and why giving someone coming back a second year to give them a raise, because like if they're just gonna stay flatline forever, you know, I don't know that I'm gonna get them back every year, but
Oh,
it's
yeah,
at least
no,
a
I,
bonus to them to say, yeah, we appreciate it, keep coming back.
yeah, because there's an investment of time to train and sustain somebody, so, no, I totally agree with that, but, yeah. the other part-
Yeah, and there's been like 25 kids. The night I was there was quite a few.
I think there's more than that now.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, it's a pretty big program, pretty.
Yeah, we're at,
Pretty busy.
I think, close to 30 now, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, appreciate it.
So the only question I have in my mind here is, a number of them are paras, is that what you said? Okay. So we're paying them wage A for their daytime stuff, and now we're paying them wage B
Correct.
for after school. Is that going to create problems or issues down the road?
They're already paid separate rates for what they're doing already, and
So some of them have 3 time cards for, well, almost not time.
Right,
cards.
and I
Because they have the
understand
inclusion
that,
and then the
but
real-
this is going to be a big jump.
They're already getting paid $15 an hour, so now they're getting paid $15.50.
Okay, I was thinking it was making a bigger jump than that. Okay,
No, you're saying as a para, they're not getting paid $15 as a para.
right.
No.
But they have been getting.
But they have been
paid
getting
after
50, so we're only bumping that 50
Those
cents.
two people,
Okay,
oh yeah, the two that are returning are only 50 cents. Yeah, or the normal starting rate is 15.
okay,
And then I've also opened up trying to get high school kids to work, which their rate's 11,
okay, very good.
which is what we pay the same thing during summer schools and stuff too for them, so, or summer camps.
Yeah, so the thought is that it's harder to get people to work after the school hours.
Just
instead.
those after
Yeah,
hours.
and some of them do bring their own kids. If they work it, we allow them to bring their own kids to the after-school program.
Okay.
Otherwise, we have a really hard time finding anybody to fill that time period with the kids. So I did it for 5 years, I think, when I first started as a teacher, and then you lose that extra energy as you get a little bit older. So we've got one young teacher that's very motivated to do it, and some paraprofessionals. So actually, we do have a couple of other teachers doing it. I know our new kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Kirkpatrick's done some nights and things. So yeah, we do have some jumping in, and I'm hoping with that increased wage and things too, maybe we'll get a little bit more. It is tough after you've been with the students all day. It's been a few more hours.
Very good. Is there any further discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passed. Approved contract with Lorinda Stokey for interpreter services.
Okay, so, Lorinda is filling in. She's worked for us before as an employee. She's now wanting to work for us as a contractor. And she is filling in the days that Macy Hinsey can't be here. Macy Hinsey's trying to be here about 3 days a week. And then Lorinda has subbed in. Brad has also been able to find a few other subs to step in. Do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Rock?
No, other than it's just a critical component, what we do, and it's, very necessary, and, we're lucky to have the ones available that we do. That's a lot more than a lot of places have.
Yeah, we are super lucky. I, have consulted with, and Brad's worked closely with Katie from the Montana School for the Deaf and Blind regarding how we provide services to this student. And, the other option is to be paying for a service in which someone would travel here back and forth from Great Falls, and would be extremely costly if we could even get them scheduled. And then the digital options are not any less expensive. So, and we we need to have the service in place. So I would recommend that we approve the contract and really appreciate the ladies. Obviously, if we could have a little bit more consistency or things a little bit different, that would be great. But it's also good for the student to have some different folks to learn from and some different experiences. So we might have another sub or two possibly that we'll be bringing to the board as substitutes. Like, you know, Lorinda has retired and she has been filling in quite a bit, and Macy has figured out that because she's in a class currently, she can only do those 3 days. So we might even have found another substitute that we'll be bringing to propose to the board.
And they are just very, very hard to come by. And it's, we've actually looked into, I had a long discussion last year with about the qualifications, and it's extremely hard to get, very limited on who offers it, and the requirements, I think we've discussed this with the
Level
board.
4, there's different designations.
Yeah, it's much higher than to do it here, in an education setting is a lot more than just somebody you might see, interpreting for a speaker somewhere. So it's not an easy thing to get, and they're very, very hard to come by.
Is that a requirement of IDEA or is there?
And that's one thing I never completely understood, if that was through the, if that was something just through the ASL thing. I'm not exactly sure, yeah, but we're really, talking to other schools in the area, we're really fortunate to have what we have here, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the level 4 requirement is in state or federal law.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because there have been some people in the past, back, a couple of years ago, when we were trying to just get names of anybody around that could do it, we found that there were some that they don't have, yes, they know sign language, but they don't have that additional step.
Well, and that also justifies, though, in part, a premium for the service.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Nobody, can challenge the work, the necessity of those skills, but the degree that's required.
Absolutely.
The advanced learning certification, however you want to call it.
Yeah, and we've had great meetings. We did some trainings with the Montana School for the Deaf and Blind for the middle school teachers before school opened this year, and had some great discussions with Katie, and I've been up there and visited with them a couple times in Great Falls. And there are some other options and some different things that besides an interpreter that might be important to utilize at some point. Like, there's a difference between an interpreter and a teacher of the deaf. They call it a TOD. And so we're looking into some different options, but those people are also few and far between. So we'll be continuing to support the student how the best we can and using our resources. So.
I move to approve the contract with Lorinda Stokey for interpretive services.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with Lorinda Stokey for interpretive services. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve preparation for submission of 21st century school grant.
All right. Yeah, when I make the agendas, I often just have the main goal of getting everything on there, but I could work on the flow a little bit, I'm seeing. So I should have this back with the other after school grant conversation. The 21st century grant is opening in December. It is a 5-year grant with large awards. It's very technical and complex and competitive. I put the opening kind of teaser page in your packet from OPI. Didn't have a lot of details in it. Mrs. Hartman and I are excited to work on this grant. However, this grant is, at a whole nother level than a lot of the other grants that we have sought out or written. So I would like to have your permission, I guess, just to move forward with the grant. The first workshop is actually on Saturday, and start just, I talked to Michelle Kuzi, the director, a little bit more today. She didn't get back to me after you and I talked, Christina, and she said there'll be some more sessions in November and they'll be longer, kind of more detailed sessions in November as the grant kicks off. I would really like to secure Strive. I kind of already put our name on their list because everyone was, immediately when they saw the grant coming open, securing grant writers and editors. It's very competitive. A lot of the larger districts, I know Browning and a lot of those school districts pay, $40,000 to $100,000 for grant writers for these size of grants because they're so critical to the communities and the schools. So they said they would be willing to work with us. I didn't get a quote or any paperwork from them yet. I wanted to see if you felt comfortable with me proceeding, but the goal would be that Ms. Hartman and I would get to see the grant application. We don't have any information yet. It's just the press release that came out. It's pretty much all that's out there yet. So once we know the qualifications and who the partners need to be, for example, on some of them, they've required that you have a partner with a local preschool or those kinds of things. So then we'll see who else needs to be involved and how we can build the team that's going to work on writing the grant together. And then Strive is led by Debbie Hunsaker. She has come and done some of the literacy work here, and I know she was here before I was here as well. And I worked with her to secure some large grants at the state and federal level in the past. So they would be interested in helping us, not so much with the writing, but with the editing and just providing feedback. And so it also sometimes, depending on what we find out and how complex it is, it could be something that goes into, major evening or weekend work, or maybe even something that we get the team together over the holiday break, since this opens in December. So there might be some need to compensate people because it's definitely above and beyond a regular grant. So I just want to see if you guys are willing and up for that, and if we can pursue finding out more about it and get a quote from Strive.
And I understand it's competitive. How much do these usually pay out? Is there a range?
I believe it. There
That
was a
would be
range.
250,000.
250?
That would be 250.
Would we be going for 250?
the last time?
Yeah, something like that was the last time.
So, I remember in the past, wasn't a component of this was kind of the, kind of socioeconomics of the district, and am I correct in my memory that we partnered up or were, I don't know if it was a requirement or was just advisable to partner up with White Sulphur?
We did with White Sulphur.
To be able to provide those services and also meet, I guess, maybe that kind of that socioeconomic threshold, or have that impact. Cause my somewhat selective memory was that weren't sure that we were going to be able to meet all of the criteria just on our own.
I think that's what this weekend will give us, that kind of information to see
So-
what
Yeah.
criteria.
Okay.
And our numbers have gone up, we were below the 40% low, but now we're above that. I just finished our Title I stuff, so.
Okay.
So it's $70,000 to $250,000 each year
Each
for
year.
5 years. So it's
Oh,
be
okay,
over $1
okay,
million,
could be, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
So the other thing that we may not have had in the past that we have now, that is critical component to writing these grants, is we have all of our homeless and foster care and all of those numbers. And I know that that'll be a component of the grant that helps us paint that story, a picture of why we really need this program. And we have been collecting that data for 2 years now, so we'll have that to add to this, which
We can show trending and.
you may
all
not
that
have
kind
had that in the past, yeah, because
Yeah.
we've started to make sure we're very carefully identifying those families. And that helps us to be eligible to receive these grants.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate kind of set of circumstances that, we had the grant and didn't have the grant. And now, thankfully, sometimes in life you get a second bite at the apple. So,
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly support that. And I guess so much so, Mr. Chairman, if you could, I would move that we actually approve, for, the preparation and submission of the 21st Century Grant.
Wait a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve preparation for submission of the 21st Century Grant. Is there any discussion?
When would it be awarded?
That's a good question. They haven't said yet. And so I will tell you a little bit about the process. I know from working at OPI that the grant applications are sent off to a third party to be scored because it is one of the larger and most competitive ones. So they usually use a university team to do the scoring of the applications, and it's quite a process. And usually only about a quarter of the applicants are awarded. So
It opens in December, so.
Opens in December, the deadline's,
Yeah.
last time, that was it was like mid-February.
they
Last
haven't
call.
even
They haven't given
said,
a date yet.
Haven't set the date.
yeah, they haven't given,
So,
yeah, like I said, that one-page teaser is about
Yeah.
all we know so far.
And everyone's scrambling.
Yeah, and everyone's already scrambling, so.
When we got notice of the meetings, even the previous Friday, and then there was 3 workshops this last week, but there was no way with everything, parent teachers and everything. And then the one coming up on Saturday, that was it. That was the notice we got. So it happened pretty fast.
that's unfortunate.
Any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed. Approved payment of comp time.
Okay, so we currently have staff with comp time. I guess first of all, start off the conversation. I think that it's time that the district revisits comp time, who's earning it, who's not, who's grandfathered in, the policies. Hopefully that's something we get through with Chris. They're very vague policies, and it's not clear anywhere to me who can earn comp time and not. And then we need to make sure who their supervisor is that's approving it and all of those kinds of things. So we have a little bit of work to do there, I believe. But currently we have Jim Riddle and Christy Sangray with what I would call excessive comp time. Christy ran a report for me for anybody that's over 80 hours. We have a couple of other folks that build up some comp time here and there, but are usually able to use it through vacation. So Mr. Riddle has requested that we pay out some of his comp time. I know that's something that Christy is interested in as well. So I provided you with a small packet just showing the spreadsheet of their hours. And then I also attached the compensated absence fund, so you can see how much money we have in that line item. It's underlined in the middle of the page there. That's where we would pay something like this out of, as well as the areas, the first page is the general fund, where you can see the sick leave termination and the vacation payout. And I wrote a note that I put extra money in there for a cushion for comp. So I put quite a bit additional money in there, knowing that we had that liability of that comp time built up. And then we have the compensated absence fund. And then you have the sheet showing how many hours to have compiled. And the rate of pay, so the dollar amounts that calculates out to. So just wanted to make sure you had that information. Last year, I don't believe we paid any out.
I guess I'm going to give my brief thoughts on this right away. I guess, to be very blunt, I guess I'm not really in favor of doing this at this point. To me, this is an item that probably should be looked at the end of the year, when we're looking at the end of the budget and been through what we projected and what we have left over. Researching this and looking into past practice, I could only understand that happened one time, and that is when it happened, was at the end of the year. The budget, the funds had the funds there, and it was capable to do that. And I guess, to me, as early as we are in the year, I have some different issues with the number of the hours and accumulation, but I guess I don't really want to get into that at this moment. But in just general terms of paying these funds right now, I'm not comfortable with that. But that's my thought.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate you saying that, and I understand that as well. We do have an obligation, but there's also when obligations become a potential liability. And I broached this subject informally a couple times in conversations, individual conversations with board members and whatnot, and actually believe that based on the budget, based on vacancy savings that we have for positions that aren't filled, that it was at least advisable to run the numbers and have the discussion. And I certainly see the point of seeing where things are at the end of the year, but I also know that despite sometimes, our best intentions with budgets, that sometimes there may be, through the course of a year, some, kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, for lack of a better term, and having funds that would be in this category that are in our budget. That was where I was going with addressing that issue and trying to see the pay down of comp time, so that the obligation that we have and the obligation that could be accruing, we would be able to kind of reset our reference point through a pay down of a portion or all of the comp time. And then when we have a revised policy that would address that issue, we would be able to start over from scratch and not have to worry about grandfathering staff in or creating some sort of a carve out that affected one segment of our the district's employees that are subject to comp time, those that aren't, that kind of thing. So, but if that's something, if it's the will of the board to, postpone that, or, if we need to have, those discussions, even potentially in an executive session or something like that, that certainly sounds like that might be a component to that discussion as well. So,
Yeah.
but I can I think that the discussion needs to be had, and like I say, whether we choose to take action on that now or at the end of the school year, I guess I would say equally open, but at least, we have got hours and dollars and numbers and things like that we're able to at least have a cogent discussion on.
I think following past precedents makes sense in this case. And I think that a further discussion around policy, revised policies, might help us determine exactly how to better approach these deficits. So that would be, and whether that discussion happens prior to the end of the fiscal year or not, that's another matter. That's a wait and see, I think. But I think following past precedents is the way I would definitely lean.
Okay, so I guess unless there is a motion to move forward, we will leave the item where it is and revisit it later on. Okay.
Certainly do that.
Okay, we will move forward. Approved bus routes for 2022-2023 school year.
You have the updated, it's the one with the grid on it, bus routes before you. There's one that says, or at least on some of them I wrote, sorry, I think Jason, you're the only one. The other of you were here. There's one.
Oh, you gave it to me though, I think.
On Spring Hill that says pending that we're just need to check into some more safety components on. But besides that one, I recommend that the board approve the bus routes as updated.
I'll move to approve the 2022-2023 bus routes as updated.
And to include with the exception of Spring Hill at this point? Okay, second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2022-2023 bus routes as updated. Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Sale of obsolete items.
Okay, we have printers all over the building that we need to get rid of because we have our new printers here. And we would like to put them for sale, so I attached the resolution. And would appreciate your help with that. We're talking about temporarily putting them in a trailer or somewhere for storage until we can get them sold.
So these are just all printers, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, so at the end of the lease last year, we took ownership of the printers, which is the reason why we have them for sale. And we were looking at both of the two options for printer leases with the new companies. One company was going to be able to haul them off and take them, and the other company did not. The one we ended up going with, unfortunately, doesn't deal with used equipment like that. So that's kind of what put us in this situation.
There's some industry level printers in that group, aren't there?
There are, and there's some that have very low mileage on them.
Low mileage, personal lasers.
Canon, no, these are Canon copiers.
Oh, they're Canon copiers. Full size. Oh. With little mileage.
Ish.
Okay.
Relatively speaking.
Do they come with an odometer or?
Actually,
I know what they got. Print copies.
Well, I move to approve obsolete item sale.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the obsolete item sale. Is there any discussion?
Are they affordable?
Well.
No, I'm just. I'm good. You don't need to answer. Don't need to answer.
Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Approve Old Baldy adult education courses and instructor pay rate.
Okay, so just an update on Old Baldy. Terry's been great to work with. We have a standing meeting each week, and she's really a go-getter, getting things revamped. Joe's been helping her get things set up on the website and ADA compliance and Facebook and all of that. So we're just getting kind of ready to launch our adult ed program once again now that we've got some things in the past and we're kind of waiting for November. We still have quite a bit of construction going on in certain rooms that we do the adult ed in, like in the pottery room and things. So we're waiting for some of those things to come to an end. And she's gathering interest in classes and gathering instructors. So at this point, I would just ask that you recommend, or I would recommend that you approve pickleball, basketball, open gym, and book club. That's what we have set up so far. And then I know the pay for those instructors has been $20 an hour for quite some time. And I know that we have a pretty healthy budget right now. So I didn't know if you wanted to consider $25 an hour for pay for those instructors, or if you want to see how this year goes and kind of what our budget looks like at the end of 1 year, kind of revamped and up and running again.
And what was the current, I'm sorry, what was the current pay rate?
$20 an hour, and they're usually, 1 to 2 hours a week.
And people have to pay for a lot of these, don't they? These classes?
Yeah, there can be a fee. It depends on how much material they have, and then we can also pay them for prep. So if there's a lot of prep work that goes into it, like if they're doing a cooking class, we'll pay them maybe an hour for the time that it took to go gather the groceries or those kinds of things. So we kind of, Terry and I have been setting up kind of a way to keep that in check and reasonable. But thinking about someone, driving here and doing all that work for a 1 hour class for $20 is kind of a lot. I don't know. So that's why I was thinking if I just wanted to bring it up and see what you guys think. It's been at $20 an hour for a long time from what I understand. And we have a healthy budget for adult ed right now that hasn't been used in a while, so.
Are there basic qualifications for an adult ed instructor?
No.
Okay.
No, I
mean-
know Mr. Watson's been talking to Terry about doing a welding class. It's kind of just local folks and their expertise.
That's kind of what I was.
We don't have a real strict, there's a liability form that we need to run through Chris Goss because it hasn't been updated in a long time that those attending fill out, especially for like open gym and pickleball. But it's kind of just what people have expertise in. So obviously like Teddy Lewis did pottery for us last year, which was awesome. And he's very humble, so he would say he wasn't qualified, but I would disagree. So.
Well, with that, I'd move to approve pickleball, basketball, open gym, and book club adult ed classes and the pay rate for instructors of $25 per hour.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve pickleball, basketball, open gym, and book club adult ed classes and the pay rate for instructors of $25 per hour. Is there any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion passed. Very good. Personnel. Make sure I'm looking at the right sheet. Resignations first.
Yes, and I do have one to add to employment. I can do that when we get there, if you
Okay.
like.
Yep.
So resignations, we have librarian Kate Ingalls. Retiring, we have KitchenAid Susan Treaster and administrative assistant substitute and summer feeding program Linda Phillips. And so I would recommend you approve the resignations as presented.
I'll move to approve the resignations as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignations as presented. Is there any discussion? I think Kay Ingalls might be deserving of another one of those lifelong achievement award nights that we did a while back.
Yeah. Kay's been around a while. Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
those many, many years of service to the community for sure. Greatly appreciated.
Yes, and she is the one that will be teaching the adult ed book club that you approved. So she is gonna continue to be around, so.
She's not really gone. Not really gone.
Great.
Yes.
Any discussion?
And she puts up with Kelly. That's even.
Careful now, you're on camera.
I know.
Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion passed. Employment.
Okay, so we got a long list here. Okay, so for employment, the additional person I would like to add is the recent hire of the assistant clerk, Casey Williams. We have winter cheer coach Lori Hansen, girls basketball volunteer Wanda Lambach, assistant speech and drama coach Allie Lampman, tennis head coach John Odell, tennis coach part-time Lindsay Moldenhauer and Amy White, track head coach Travis Rao, track coach Pat Hamilton, track coach Angie Tu, track coach Brooke Dolan, head golf coach Pete Robichaud, golf coach Wendy Gravely, spring play Denise Bacham, wrestling coach Harry Hall is going to full-time, substitute teacher Beth Roloffs. We have one applicant for the public librarian to replace Kay. We'll be planning to interview her soon. We still have after-school program spots available. We have a KitchenAid. Cody Skillman, one of our students, is helping in the kitchen part-time. We have a morning cook position still open, custodian open, paraprofessionals, and activity bus drivers. We, Mr. Horn's class just made posters for me to hang. They did a graphic design assignment, and we're getting posters generated to hang up throughout town and Three Forks and Helena about our job openings. We really need help in the kitchen and custodian help. So those people are working very hard to try to fulfill with those jobs with those vacancies right now. And we're encouraging students to apply for those positions as well. So we're excited that Cody's doing that before school, and I think possibly doing some of that during her lunchtime. So, and any other students that we could get to do some of that would be excellent. So that's where we're at with hiring. So if you could approve the employment of the individuals as I presented, pending background checks.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the hires as presented for the 22-23 school year pending successful background.
And second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the hires as presented for the 2022-2023 school year pending successful background checks. Any discussion?
I was just going to ask about the assistant clerk. When is she starting, or has she?
Monday.
Monday?
She came in for, I believe, half a day. Was it last, I think it was last
That's
Friday.
Friday, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And she tried to work it into her schedule this week, but was not able to, and she'll start Monday.
Okay, great.
Yeah, she seemed to, Christy said she seemed excited about it.
She's very excited.
Good, great.
And
great.
it was looking like they were getting a lot done, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then those roles are in the process of being delineated, assistant, and we're making
Yeah.
progress.
So we'll have to work on that and
Okay.
see, I think part of that, is that Christy wants to see what her skills, where her skills lie and direct the work in that direction. So.
Yeah. That makes sense to make the best use of the skill sets available. Yeah, absolutely.
Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passed. Principals report. Christina Hartman.
Way back.
Thank you for your patience.
Okay, I just want to thank everyone for being there for the ribbon cutting ceremony. Thank you to the board. Got a lot of feedback, and everyone really liked that that everyone was up there and cut the ribbon. I just thought that was kind of cool to see everyone be part of that. The Executive Leadership Academy, I am part of that. This is actually part of the teacher residency program that we are with as well. And so with the student teacher we have, her direct teacher is actually doing some, they have a teacher leadership program that she attends, and there's one once a month. And so with that, I'm also attending one once a month. And so I've already attended one in September. October's is this week. It's 16, 20 hours almost of time that were spent with them. It's a great group of people I'm working with. Some of it's virtual, some of it's in person. This week's virtual, so they'll be nice. I'm right here, but in the end, one of the things we'll be doing, I know grouping this next time, is working on a capstone. And so they've given us categories and areas that they'd like us to focus on in capstone. So I have a couple of ideas. One of them that I really, really want to focus on is like that, how are we going to keep building how are we going to get more teachers? How are we going to get more people involved in becoming teachers? And how are we going to get people excited about that again? Because right now I think the number of people going into education is down. So
Yeah,
that's
a
one
bunch.
area.
A bunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a bunch. So I think it's going to be a great asset for myself, and then also meeting a lot of new people and creating that network of people that I can go to. Our reading program is slowly but surely moving along. The teachers are starting to finally feel like they're getting into the groove. They have asked to have a Zoom meeting with the trainers. The trainers do come back for an in-person here in about a month, but they want to get some of those questions handled now. So we're going to do a Zoom meeting with them so they can just do a quick Q&A with them, so they can see what is it they need to fix. And then when they come in person, then hopefully they'll have a better system running. We had Branching Minds training, which was last week, as well as parent-teacher conference, all on the same day. So we had a very busy day. The teachers, while they were Branching Minds training for the afternoon, all the students went to stations. I created different STEAM stations throughout the day that they rotated between paras and subs and everything, and some of our staff members that didn't need to be at the training. They all oversaw the students so the teachers could attend this. The Branching Mind training, it's a technology service for data management. And it's a toolkit that helps us with resources to help build that personal learning. So basically, we're taking all of our benchmark data, all of our behavior data, all of that is in one spot. And then from there, based on that student, you could actually go in and it'll give you interventions. It'll give you tools to help working with those students to say, okay, yeah, here's some things that they're missing. So that we're not trying to invent it and how much time the teacher is trying to spend, okay, I got to come up with something for this and I can come up with something for this. No, it actually has it all right there for them. And we have all of our data in one spot. Right now with STAR, we have to print it off every year because for some reason they will not store it. So if we want to go back and look at data, it's not there. It's the silliest thing in the world. So we have to print it off. And
So you can't even export it out and drop it into some other application?
No, it's the weirdest thing in the world. So we can export it to this, but we couldn't export it into something else so we could have it there for future. So, and STAR was one we're kind of working towards moving away. We're going to look at new benchmark programs, but that's so that's all in one spot, because we do have to use FastBridge with kindergarten because STAR doesn't go that low. So we've got all these different tools because of this does this does this, and so trying to get all of that so we can actually look at it in one spot. This has been really beneficial. It's a lot of work. I really appreciate Kelsey and Jen. They really stepped up and did a lot of hours on getting this ready for our teachers to be part of, and they put a lot of extra time in for that. They've really been the drive behind getting this and it aligns with our MTS as well that we have.
So it's a manual to a great extent, it's a manual update of data within a common platform.
Correct.
Anything move into it automatically? I guess probably not. Any data sets move into it automatically from any other
I don't know if
application?
you can set it up, I think we can set it up now.
There are some that,
Yeah,
The Anthony campus does, as far as I know. I know Luke was handling all of that.
oh, okay, so there is some automated features that you can
Right.
move data
Well,
around.
we as IT staff have to push it over there too.
You have to,
It's not
oh, you
that
have to, okay,
But there is that sort of thing that can be done at the beginning part of the year to kind of front load a lot of
okay.
it.
Because that'd be a massive amount of data. And that's,
yeah, and appreciate Luke and Joe, because they also had to put a lot of extra time in, because they
Yeah.
were trying to we had to get permission from this company so that we could transfer. I mean, it was just, yeah, a headache trying to get it all pushed in there. So there's a lot of people involved.
but being able to do that sort of meta-analysis on a personalized level is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It's definitely gonna help take the MTSS to the next level.
Yeah.
That those kids are getting the interventions they need
Mhm.
or getting challenged if they need.
Really, and that's what that
Yeah.
personalized learning, and that's
Sure.
what I know that we've talked about in our strategic plan, that's, personalized learning.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this really would help with that, and,
It's almost like personalized coaching
yeah.
in this case,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, thank you.
And like I said, we had parent-teacher conferences that night as well. We had a great turnout. Had, I think, I'm trying to think of our numbers on that night. There was a lot going on that night. We had a pretty good turnout. I think it was 80%, so it was a pretty good number for our upper grades. Some teachers did set times, others did, so we just kind of let the teachers do what they felt worked the best for them, so. Staffing update, I know it was just put out for first grade. We've had a couple of applications, but we haven't gotten quite there yet to review those yet. We've already talked about the 21st Century Grant. Because of the 21st Century Grant, and I've written other grants for the school, like the after-school program. We had one a couple years ago because of COVID, so for the after-school program. I actually took a grant writing course that BCDC offered. And so it was just a couple of evenings this last week, but it was really interesting to see, the process that's involved in that and why, and it's kind of a game. Interesting enough, Susie was there with me. It's just interesting to see. It was like, man, this is just it's very much of a game that you play to try and get these. Yeah, exactly.
How you package yourself,
Exactly.
it's like writing a
It
resume.
really,
and
yeah, she broke it all down, like,
presentation.
you want this, you gotta do this, if you want this, it was like, wow, it was really interesting,
So
so.
it reminded me of a marketing pitch. Would that be equivalent?
Yeah, a marketing, yes, depending on who you're approaching on that, on that pitch, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm. We have our community needs assessment tomorrow after school, so that'll be interesting to see what the educators feel that for our community, what they feel that we need to adjust or bring in. Our field trips, we had fifth grade go to the Learning Center, their yearly trip. Thank you for approving that trip. This is one that they really look forward to every year, and it's and I go out there myself, and Keith goes along with me. It's something he looks forward to every year. It's kind of funny because our job every year is to bring pizzas out to them, and then we hang out a little bit and see some of their projects and things that they're doing. And they're just, when they see us pull up, it's very exciting. They're just all jazzed about it. Even though we have pizza, I know that.
You got
but
food.
I know, but they're just all jazzed. Yeah. We're gonna twist it up a little bit next year. We did take the Red Rocket this year, because kids love seeing the Red Rocket. Next year we're gonna take the boat right up to the shore and take the pizza out to them. So try and mix it up for them a little bit. So just some events coming up. The only thing I had a couple of my missed on there was October 20th. I know we're not in school, but we are gonna have our paras here that are not CPI trained yet. We have a number of new ones. So on the 20th, Mrs. Smucker is going to have CPI training for all of our paras that haven't been certified yet. On the 25th, we have our Title I annual parent meeting at 6:30, and that'll be on the learning stairs. And there'll be an invite that's sent out to everyone for that.
Sorry, what was that date?
October 25th for Title I parent, the annual meeting. And then the 31st, I've talked to the hospital again, and they're still not ready for us to come back through the hospital, but we are gonna do our Halloween parade along the outside of the hospital and down Broadway at 1:45 on the 31st.
Questions? Okay, Mr. Rock.
As one of our advisory activities in the middle school, we try to tie in some character lessons with our advisory to kind of fit what we're trying to do in the middle school. And one of those is community service. And we took the entire middle school out and pulled weeds before the open house. I don't know, 3 pickup loads full from out around the football field and parking areas. And kids did a wonderful job. I mean, it's, a lot of comments about kids enjoying to do hands-on things where they make themselves. A lot of times we get a kid into the classroom that may not overexert himself, but you get him out on a project like that, they'll go all day. And I mean, some of our best workers. And so it was a lot of fun, actually. The kids did a wonderful job, and we appreciate that. And it fits really well with some of the things we try to do in that advisory. The student council candy sales are wrapping up. We sold it all in a hurry. It really has sold most of it in 2 or 3 days. A lot of those kids came back, and wanted an extra box that same day before we were even out of the building. So it was very successful. And again, that money goes to some of those programs we have and some of the functions we have in the middle school. It funds those. Parent-teacher conferences, we also had a pretty good turnout. We did student-led ones where they take the students kind of direct the discussion with their parents, and that's kind of been a success. It's a little more work to get prepared for, but it makes conference night a breeze, and I think it's actually more relaxing for the parents and something students can be excited about. Had our 6th grade conservation day. It turned out to be a great day that day. It was right in the middle of a lot of those rainstorms. We got kind of the one sunny day. The conservation district does that. We did it out at the York's Island. And the kids really, it's really impressive. Next time we have it, I encourage you to swing out there if you happen to get a chance. I know it's kind of a bad time for most of you. But they did a lot on bear awareness this time. And of course, they do a lot on the water, our water resources, and really ties in well to kind of our agricultural background in the state. And then the cattle women generally do lunch for them out there. So it's really a good day, and it's an all-day deal. We also had the experience of Hal Stearns coming in. Hal has a pretty impressive resume. Some of you probably know him. He did a program for us called Montana Stories with our entire 6th through 8th grade. Didn't have a lot of time, but he hit a lot of different topics in a short amount of time. Bill Kearns arranged that for us. He's a friend of Bill Kearns. And then he was coming to speak that evening to the Crimson Bluffs group downtown. And I actually went and saw that. He did a wonderful presentation on Montana leaders. Next time he comes, if you get a chance to see him, he's very interesting if you're in the history at all. Our annual student council Halloween party is coming up. We'll do it just prior to Halloween. And the reason we do that is because we do not dress up in the middle school for Halloween. We discovered years ago that this was a good alternative for them, and that way we kind of avoid some of the things that come up with costumes and all of that during the school day. And so we give them pizza and do everything. It's all money they've raised anyway. So, but it's a good time. The kids look forward to it, and they don't give us, they don't complain too much about not dressing up on Halloween day by doing that. So we do that, and we also do that. We kind of try to tie a little life lesson into that by making them actually take a permission slip home RSVP for it if they want to attend by a certain date. And it's kind of good for them to do that. So that's it. Been a busy month.
Thank you.
Oh,
Ms. Hebron,
Hello, I'm back.
you're back. It's pretty easy to
It's
see
going,
you coming.
it's going well, it's going well over there, it's going well.
Yeah, she stands out a little bit.
I do, yes. We've had a fun few weeks in the high school. It's been very busy. As everybody knows, homecoming week was last week, and probably one of the most well participated in, fun homecoming week we've had in a long time. The kids just ran with it and had a great time. A lot of that is due to our student council advisor, Allie Lampman. She just did a fantastic job. It's been awesome to have cheerleaders back in the mix. I think they finally gelled with the rest of the kids during homecoming and the pep rally and the games. And I think it changed that bond with them and that relationship through all of that too. So that's been really fantastic. Kids were great. The teams did well. It was really a fun week. So it was a nice upbeat situation, a nice event. Staff had a good time. I'm not sure how the janitors felt. They always are a little roughed up after homecoming, but we tried to help out and clean up as much as we could. We did the best we could. We tried. We obviously went through mid-quarter academically, actually a pretty good mid-quarter for the high school students. I had quite an ineligibility list transferring from the fourth quarter last year, which obviously doesn't include the freshmen, but almost all of those kids became eligible again at mid-quarter. So that's always a great policy. I feel like it helps our students not have to miss out on an entire quarter of work. And if they can show that they're gonna, take their academics seriously and pass their classes, that coming eligible, I think, is a big reward for them to do so and to stay eligible. So really happy with their performance at mid-quarter. We, for the first time this year, we've always used Montana Digital Academy just for recovery credit. And we're finding in our schedule with some of our seniors that on occasion there's a period or two where they just don't have anything to take. They've already taken it. Or there's just sometimes because of our schedule and being so small and some of our offerings that we have, we just don't have a lot to offer for some of those periods. So we actually opened up MTDA, which it is used for just doing original credit as well. It's not easy. We front load it with students knowing that they're an independent study. We pretty much just facilitate the class. The teacher on the other end is the one running the class, et cetera, et cetera. So there's been a bit of a learning curve, I think, with some of our students with that. But I think once they, figure it out, and they have very strict deadlines, which I think sometimes they aren't quite as used to, but that also preps those kids for when they get into a college scenario as well, where there aren't going to be quite so many graces for deadlines and things like that. So we have, I think, 4 or 5 seniors taking like interior design and some different courses that we just obviously don't offer here at our school. So that'll be interesting to see how that all pans out, kind of an experiment at this point to see how that's going to work out for them. So today, I know I attended a ATAP Safe Schools webinar. I might have touched on it last time we had a board report. My daughter-in-law is a detective at Montana State University, and she is specializing and getting a lot of extended education in trauma-informed schools, in safe schools. And she was a part of this big webinar today that anybody could join. They just had to register for it. It was a really great conversation because the main focus of it was being proactive, recognizing signs for mental health and behavior in staff and students to try to ward off these big catastrophic events that happen sometimes in school situations, whether, no matter what the scenario is. It's about being more proactive. And it's also about working together with all community resources. So instead of us all doing things independently, like the sheriff's department and the mental health sector and the school sector, all coming together to see how we can mesh these resources together to be more proactive in recognizing when we have, either students or staff or community, anybody that is struggling or having a hard time, so that we can better work with that. So it really fits into that social and emotional piece that we're talking a lot more about these days, and the mental health issues that we're seeing in our students and even adults too. So pre-COVID, post-COVID, doesn't really matter. But I have 2 pages full of really awesome notes and a lot of ideas. So it was definitely well worth sitting down for. And I'm proud of my daughter-in-law. I'm saying that on camera, so I don't know that she's watching, but she's amazing. So very cool. Upcoming activities, the rest of October is swamped into the first couple of weeks of November. We're obviously cruising into postseason and finishing up senior nights and doing all of those things. Our football team has performed well enough during the regular season that they will take first in their conference. So we will host that first playoff game at the end of October. So that's exciting. And then obviously that just rolls from there. We'll see where that goes. We have state cross country coming up on October 22nd. October 15th, so this coming weekend, I don't know how I missed that on there, but is our home Rusty Riesling cross country meet out at the golf course. So that's Saturday starting at 10, and it's their senior day, senior night, senior day. We kind of combine it together. We have the NHS induction ceremony on the 24th of October. That's a Monday evening. And I believe the ceremony itself starts at 7.
21st, you said?
24th.
24th, okay.
Yep, 24th. And then our FFA parliamentary procedure team is headed to nationals in Indianapolis, the 26th through the 29th. District volleyball and that first playoff game for football. End of the quarter, 28th of October already. It seems like we just went through mid-quarter, so the fall's rolling fast. And then we'll head into divisionals and quarterfinals for football playoffs. So district divisionals and state volleyball are all local. So we'll be in Manhattan for divisionals and districts, and then Bozeman for state. And hopefully we'll keep that football thing rolling and keep that pretty local too. That would be great. So exciting times. I'm hoping to go to the state cross country meet since our MNCL conference is also in Missoula. I just plan on staying, so that'll be good to get to go to state. It's a lot it's a lot closer this year instead of wherever it was last, Kalispell, I don't know where it was. It was maybe that was track, I don't know. It was somewhere.
Yeah, the cross country was in Missoula last year too.
Was it in Missoula last year too? Okay. So, yeah, moving and shaking, busy place, but going well.
Very good, thank you. Settle up.
All right, we've already covered quite a bit of mine, so I will go quickly. We already talked about the ELC grant, which also was connected to staff recruitment and vacancies. So did get the town pump meals, that grant submitted for the snack packs, for the backpacks. K's, we are gonna do a little, hopefully she's not watching. We're gonna do a little retirement send off. I don't think it's a surprise. It wasn't a surprise, right? November 10th at 6:30 in the library. If any of you would like to be present, and I've asked some of our kids to make a plaque. So we will do that on November 10th at 6:30 in the library. Thank you for the ongoing conversation regarding my evaluation format and other evaluation formats. I haven't gotten a chance to chase Sherry down yet, but I did give a copy of a different style one to Christina and Brad to look at. And on the link that I sent you guys was to the superintendent one, but on the Montana ePass system, OPI provides a model format for evaluation for teachers and all levels of administrators. That's free. We currently pay I think it's like $2,400 or something a year for the Rocky Mountain evaluation program that we use. So just curious if people want to keep going with the Rocky Mountain evaluation tool or look at the Montana ePass or any other ones. Not necessarily saying, I know you've already started this year, so maybe something to think about for next year. I think one of the only things that bothers me about it is the yes or no, that there's no like in between. On the E-Pass one, I think it's C-score 1 to 4 or 1 to 5. When you do the educators.
I think that can be set up on Rocky Mountain's end too.
We actually chose to do this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there you go.
Oh, so you chose yes, no answers rather than
Yes.
Likert scale,
And I
basically?
agree, after using it for a while, I kind of like some middle ground as well. Just because somebody's not either doing it or not doing it, sometimes there's a lot of middle ground there where there's just some areas that need improvement. They're trying, but they aren't quite there yet. So.
Yeah, it was a little bit hard, I thought, when I was doing some of the teachers. There's some folks that fall in weird areas, gray areas that I do the evaluations on, like Mr. Roxway. So I found that interesting. Just want to, I know the board's looking at some different models for possibly updating mine, and just wanted to talk to you guys about how you felt about yours, and then about the educators' evaluation formats as well. Make sure we're keeping everything up to date. Member Scott sent me a link to, or told me about the Think Tank Thursday with MTSBA about Assembly. And I know Joe also received that. So we jumped on there the other week, and that was presented by MTSBA about the new platform that they're going to hold their policies on. And it looks like it's going to be amazing and super user friendly and easy for us as well as families to search and just do tons of stuff with policy. It'll show you kind of like color coded when's the last time you updated them or not, so you can keep track of what you need to work on. And it looks like it's going to be really neat. And it's funny because Chris Goss is kind of quiet, as you all know, and like mellow guy, but he was quite excited about it in his presentation. So
it's worth the money.
Chris
so
Goss was
yeah, and
excited.
I know that
I
that's
missed
something
it.
that we had to pay an additional
Yeah,
payment for,
yeah.
but
1650 or something, was that right? Or somewhere in that area?
yeah.
Yeah.
But seeing how they presented it, it looks like it really will be a cool platform.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it looked like a fantastic platform for you all to use. And it gives you just lots of options to be able to compare policies from what the state policy is to what our current policy is, and it's very clear. It doesn't muddy anything. I mean, I think it's going to be a wonderful tool for everybody to use. It'll be easy to integrate into our website and everything else. So.
Because it's all accessible and
Correct.
all that stuff. You got to take care of all that. Now, and we need a local administrator just to maintain that, or is that what we need? As I understand.
I'm not
Yeah,
clear on
you know,
Maintain what?
Yeah, that was my. That
Just
was
the
way I felt.
just the
Just as
content.
far as, like,
Help manage the content and keeping Assembly content up to date with policies and just.
Yeah, and then to also manage like who has access to it.
Yeah.
And then oversee everything as in general as far as from a user standpoint.
But that's part of what we're paying them for.
It is, but it sounded like to me that
There's gonna be more
there's still going to be there's still going to be an expectation from us to do a certain amount of that.
Right.
Because they should be managing the
Yeah.
policies,
Yes.
is
Yeah.
my understanding.
Just
But the local control.
the
will-
local changes that we
Yeah,
make,
yeah.
I guess, the reflection of those, yeah.
Kind of, yeah, the local, sort of like a content management system where somebody would be locally to allow access to and take away permissions, for instance, for folks to access certain content. Kind of that idea.
And with the new one with Assembly, we'll just be able to upload them ourselves.
Fairly straightforward. You're still going to have somebody to
They review
to manage.
them, yeah.
Well, just to manage I guess what Sean's hinting at is just like you would have somebody that oversees, say, our door controls and who has access to that system. You're still going to need somebody locally, like say an IT guy, to oversee the who has access to certain things.
Yeah, the typical database management kind of
Correct.
stuff. Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I'm glad that was useful.
Yeah,
Glad.
no, and I didn't think too hard about that part, but I did enjoy watching them take us kind of through how the program works, and it does look like it'll be really slick.
Good,
So,
great.
yeah, and they did a nice job of presenting that and kind of explaining, what those additional fees were for and the accessibility. So we have a staff flu clinic October 14th from 1:30 to 3:30 here in the community room. The U of M Safe School Center will be here the 24th and the 25th. We have drills coming up the 18th and the 24th. We'll work with Jeremy on planning the bus safety drills. And then that safety and activities meeting, I don't know if that's too much to put on the 25th with the Title I meeting being that night at 6:30 as well. Or one thing I was thinking about is I'm working with the gal from the U of M Safe Schools Center on the agenda for those 2 days. Maybe I should see if she thinks that's the best time, as if they're gonna still be here until 5:30, or what time, what kind of a meeting she thinks would be best for you guys to participate in. Maybe I should wait for some more information in the agenda from her.
Because if they are, because she's going to be participating, they'll be participating in that safety meeting, so we'll be all together. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll be on the site, so I'm still waiting for the agenda from her though. So, I will just keep you posted on when we're gonna have the, safety and activities committee meeting.
Okay, so it's not, so question mark then.
Possibly the
Yeah.
25th
Okay.
at 5:30.
Okay, question mark, got it.
But I would like to make sure that, that works with our agenda with the Safe Schools folks that are here.
Okay.
So. Any questions?
Susie, could you write a note to update your invite to the Safe Schools thing, reflect the right dates? So changes on.
Yeah. Is that just on the district calendar then?
Actually, because you invited us singularly, it's just on our own calendars.
Oh, okay.
But I tried to change it and I can't change it because I didn't. send the
Invited you
invite.
guys as
Yeah.
administrators, gotcha.
Thank you. Otherwise, I'm gonna be a day late. Did you hear that sass?
So just thinking about what we told the construction guys, we told them about the fire drill. Is there anything on that October 24th earthquake drill that they need to be aware of? No.
No.
It's just a spiel.
It's an
that goes over-
in-classroom
Yeah.
thing.
Or
Okay.
the radio.
Very
speakers, so.
Didn't want them being unaware if you're
Kids won't be running around.
shaking the building.
Well, they were doing enough earthquake shaking today for us.
Boy, I guess. I was like, what is happening? It is very
Yeah, the
loud.
building was moving a lot today.
I looked at Christina and I was like, are we having it?
Okay, I guess there's a couple things I would like to address while we got us all here. One of them being, there was some discussion on social media today, and then we had people come and speak again about that 4-day school week. Obviously, it's an item we need to have a discussion about and trying to figure out how everybody thinks that best needs to happen. I think it is probably going to be a lengthy discussion, so I don't know if we want to have it on, the November agenda. I was thinking earlier today that with the construction that we might be having a special meeting to do the 2 classrooms, but it sounds like we won't see that in time until basically the November. So I was going to try and combine those 2 things together, but it doesn't look like the construction one will be necessary. So don't know if we want to do a special meeting and try and have an open discussion about that, or if people want to just put it on the November agenda. But I think one way or the other, we need to have the discussion because obviously it's on a lot of people's minds and we need to.
There are staff members too that are gathering like
Yep,
some
and I-
research and getting some notes,
And
which
that's,
is good. It's
and
good
I've
that
had those
everybody's
discussions
researching.
too, and that's what I've tried to, reiterate is, we need some facts, concepts, figures, ideas. It's got to be more than just, we want a 4-day school week. There's got to be some reasoning behind it and.
Absolutely agree.
And plus or minus. I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm for or against it. We got to look at both sides.
Well, we need, and also along with scheduling models and pedagogical sort of models, block scheduling is another piece that should really be considered as well, along with the with a 4-day school week, a 3-day school week, and remote learning. I mean, talk about any variation. I threw the last combination out there just because that's, we can do it. We can do it. So what makes sense and what makes the best sense for what we do, for what our kids need? What makes the most sense around that? And so I think it's a long discussion. I think it's a longer discussion than one night, because there's a lot of data sets that need to be considered, a lot of financial aspects that need to be considered. Just flipping a switch just does not work.
Mr. Chairman, as an idea, why couldn't we approach this like we did our building project committee? It'd be something we could have boards, so we have our standing committees, and because something like change to a 4-day school week affects, in some respect, every single one of the standing committees areas. I don't know, it seems to me that establishing kind of a select committee, if you will, and have, the parent stakeholders, and community leaders and as many of us as is able to commit to having, committee meetings. But I just think that taking it down to a more informal kind of information intake and brainstorming sessions and trying to see, what the larger pieces of it might be, and try and come up with some sort of a division of labor, or dare I say, a strategic plan, and how it would be that we, could bring across that. I'm about 40 pages into a 210-page report that the Rand Corporation did last year on, it's called does 4-day equal 5-day? And it's a exhaustive report. But, there's, and I've gone on and research and seeing some of these things as well. But, even just breaking down what are, pros and cons, misconceptions, what we could agree upon as being, valid data that has been done through surveys and other things, and just trying to kind of cut the wheat from the chaff a little bit. And it seems to me that having a community integrated committee that could address that much in the same way. I mean, I think that how the building committee worked seemed to be a good vehicle for that. And I was hoping to parlay that kind of an idea into something that we could use to move forward, and at least have that committee make some recommendations, either for some additional research or what have you. But I certainly think that making that committee as inclusive, in terms of participation, is advisable.
And I just want to reiterate or re-clarify or whatever I want to redo. But, I think the first question is, what's important? Performance? What the first question to ask is, what kind of performance out of our students do we want? Okay, what kind of knowledge gain do we want? What kind of retention do we want? And take a look at all those issues within various scheduling models and various learning models. And then that's a direction. That's not saying we want to do this or this, and when we're going to make everything fit that. What's our goal, our strategic goal for our kids?
Right, but I don't want to have that discussion
No.
tonight. I want to know how we start that, or what people's ideas and how we get that, because like I said,
Another meeting.
You're getting into
Another
the
meeting.
weeds.
So talking to, I know like 3/4 just did this, and we have our regional principals
Yeah.
meetings, and then our last meeting, they said, that it came up, we were talking about it and just the, all the pros and cons of what they've noticed now that they've shifted to that or those kinds of things. And basically, two of the things that I think were important was the one thing he said to me that really struck me, he said, first thing we did was put out a survey to the families, the community, the parents, the whatever. He goes, we were shocked by what came back. People were so in favor of it, and they had no idea because they really thought the community would not be in favor of it at all. And he said it was overwhelmingly popular. So I think that might be the first thing, is really reaching out again. I mean, I know we did it a long time ago when we were strategic planning, but
Back then it wasn't.
yeah, and it wasn't back, but it maybe, I don't know, maybe that's where we start. And then, I really like Todd's idea of kind of handling it that way, but you could kick even that system off with having just an open meeting. Just an open, not necessarily, and then go to these more compartmentalized, but just we're willing to discuss this. So let's bring what you need to bring.
Well, Sean is like what
Yeah.
he's done as a strategic planning facilitator.
Right,
How you kind of whiteboarded everything, and
the
you
ideas.
broke
Yeah.
you broke us into groups and provided some structure, yet said
Right,
these are, what are the areas that you need to consider, and then start distilling that down.
but openness,
Yeah.
everybody was welcome to
Point.
attend.
Absolutely.
Anybody who wanted to could come and attend, and that was
I
great.
agree with Sean,
Yeah.
and I definitely agree with Jason that we're not doing this tonight. You can't, in my opinion, it should all come out of kind of our strategic plan to start with. I don't think you can sit down, you don't get accurate information when you have your mind made up, you're gonna do something, and you can make everything fit that. I could make it fit a 7-day week really well and justify it, but, I think he's right. You can't, put the cart before the horse, or whatever the saying is. You can't just fill in the spots based on what you want. I think we need to be able to get information that is accurate, even if sometimes not information we want to hear,
What's important to us,
And the goal
what's important to our
based,
students. That's the main point. And if it's a 4-day week, so be it. If it's a 7-day week, so be it. If it's a block scheduling model, so be it. But that's what we want to achieve. And we would define that. We would define what we want to achieve
So
At a
just
later
start with
date.
your
at a later date.
Yeah.
We've had that discussion,
So we start with
recently
the
about,
planning meeting, and we-
But it needs to be revisited.
Yeah.
And revisited.
And I think you do need to keep that open component as well, though, anybody who's a stakeholder who, feels like they have contribute, in the ways they want
but to
in an
anybody-
organized manner.
Yeah, and I'm not belaboring the point, but any of the folks here tonight, I would ask them first, rather than the scheduling model, I would ask them first, what is important to you about your child's education?
Correct.
That's, what do we want to gain? That's the important first step to take.
Exactly.
It'd
Agreed.
be interesting to hear the reasoning why behind it, what's pushing the 4 days.
I think there's lots of pros and cons all around. There is, I'm a real block scheduling fan. I'm a huge advocate.
I had noticed.
Only because I was in the transition at Western and taught in the block scheduling model.
Can you explain that to us?
No.
Brad, thank you for asking. No, not today, thank you.
It'd be just
Stop.
interesting to see what everyone's different view on why
Yeah,
that
yeah.
4 day is important.
I would like to see the teachers come too, because I know
Agreed.
there
Yeah,
are some
yeah.
in favor and some who probably aren't.
Okay,
but-
so the question then, do we want to start with some sort of a survey? Or do we want to start with a meeting? What do people see as being the first appropriate step?
I think a meeting,
Okay.
in my mind.
Is it the strategic planning meeting to see if that's part of the?
I
or is
think
it-
a strategic planning, yes, whether it be strategic planning or a subset of strategic planning around a scheduling model.
Yeah, I think we would
Yeah.
need to emphasize
Yeah.
that we are going to tackle, or not tackle, but,
Look at.
emphasize that as part of it.
I don't want people to think
Explore it.
that we're
Explore
trying,
it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want, people to think that, it's just being ignored or trying to be enveloped into something else but I agree, we need to be, I think so too.
Because it's not being ignored.
We're
That
gonna
may be
talk
the
about
best
it.
deal. I
Yeah.
just, we don't know yet. We don't know.
No, agree,
Okay,
agree.
so when?
Next summer?
How's June?
December, how about
The
December,
problem
early
with
December?
Including staff is that the only PAR day we have coming up isn't until January, and we already have a lot of work we have to do that day.
So I would just throw out that if it's something of that magnitude, if teachers care, they'll come.
Yep.
If it's something that important, it's not like we're asked, I mean, everything else is important that we do, but something like that, if they care, they'll come. If they don't, they won't, and then you've lost your chance. I mean, seriously, if that doesn't get them here, you're not gonna get them here for anything.
I agree, and I think that the time to start thinking about that from a meeting kind of perspective, the process perspective would be early December, thinking about moving it forward in January and February. And then I'm not saying we do anything next year, anything different, I'm not saying that. But if something does fall into place, it needs to be planned out, and then that initial planning needs to be started by maybe April 1st or last of March or something like that. If there's to be any change for the school year for next year. I'm just thinking about the time frame around that.
I was thinking the same thing, like when we usually do the calendar for the year.
Yeah, yeah.
Those kind of things.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not saying anything changes or not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if it, if you don't,
December 1st is Thursday.
if you don't put yourself in that position, you're never gonna get there.
They're talking about
December.
first part of December.
Oh. That's how it plays out there.
I'm just looking, somebody give me a
I
date.
know, but November.
November 29th.
November 29th is a Tuesday.
Oh, that would, yeah, as an initial conversation starter, that would be a good
I,
day.
I won't be here, but that,
See,
Okay. But I have a feeling whatever day we throw out, you're gonna go, I'm not gonna be here.
if you want to do it the 28th.
It's like trading in a car. Why don't you tell me what?
Yeah, either that Monday or Tuesday would be fine, or that Thursday of that week, because that's like, what, the 2nd of December?
First is
I guess
First
that-
December?
Yeah, my 29th, I don't want to get too, personal, but 29th is when I'm headed for Salt Lake for my surgery on the 30th. So for the 2 weeks after
you're
that,
good.
I will not be available.
Is there a reason we're looking at that time? I mean, is that when you guys want to look at it, or did you want to, it's just too busy to do too early to do anything before that?
That's
Or-
what I was.
I'd like to see us get in November. I think October is probably.
October's pretty slow.
What about the
Like
week?
earlier in November?
I'll
the
tell
week
you
of the
that.
14th.
Well, but remember, there's some, if a person is gonna do, I suspect some facilitation is gonna have to happen in some way, and
We accept.
and that,
November 15th or
and-
28th?
The 15th, we have parent-teacher conferences, K2,
Yeah.
so that's not a good day. The
14th,
14th would work, according to the calendar.
The
There's some
7th
junior high
and the
basketball
14th.
going on, but
how about the next week?
The 7th and
That's the
14th.
week of Thanksgiving.
That's week, Monday or Tuesday of that week, Monday of that week?
Mrs. Flynn has a meeting on that Monday already.
Okay.
November
Monday the
7th or
21st.
14th, what's the 7th look like?
the
That
election,
week
the election day
is tough because
setup.
you've got election day.
Oh, that's something we gotta talk
Veterans
about
Day,
too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
forgot about that.
I knew there was
Oh,
moving.
November 14th sounds like the only
I
date.
just didn't realize it was election day. November 14th?
That sounds awfully soon.
We're gonna,
November 14th.
It's a
Okay.
month.
It's a month, man.
That's a month.
Yeah, but I also gotta work 2 or 3 jobs.
Oh, kids. All right, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's-
okay,
Let's
the
target
14th.
November 14th.
Is it Tuesday? Is
That's
that
a
Tuesday?
Monday.
That's a Monday, okay.
6 o'clock?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it any sooner because we
Mhm.
need to give people enough time.
Yeah.
Is the sports parent meeting gonna be a problem? That's our night for winter sports parent.
well, it's a whole lot of our parents here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What time is that at though?
It's a very
It's
high.
like 6 o'clock.
can we try doing this at 5? I feel like once teachers, like, we're gonna lose the teachers that drive to Helena and stuff if we do stuff too late.
But
But you have
again,
parents.
I just can't emphasize enough that if they want to be a part of the conversation, they're gonna find a way to be here.
But how many
Stay
parents are you
for
gonna miss if you have it at 5?
Why? Oh,
Not
because
it.
they're.
The ones that work
Get here.
till 5 and then.
And I guess if we go later in that week, the only thing I'm gonna throw out is I'm hoping we're in the state championship that week.
So
No.
why?
But how long is the sports one last? If you did 6:30, would it
So
work?
that, the rest of that week would be kind of iffy for a lot of things, probably.
They'll meet with training rules and then they'll meet with coaches, so it's at least gonna be an hour, hour and a half.
Okay, what about December
Mhm. Yep.
4th? Is that a Monday? December?
Which one?
No,
It's the
December
5th.
4th is
We're
Sunday.
looking at winter
Oh, 5th.
concerts that week. Sorry,
The week of what?
the week of the 5th of December.
Well, we could get started after the first of the year, but I think it's important to get started before the first of the year because
Yeah, I think we need to have an
I-
initial conversation.
I think so. I think
I
so.
agree.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot of people have any idea how long implementation of any change.
Yeah.
It takes
Yeah.
a long time.
Regardless of what you.
Agreed. But if we want to give ourselves any,
You guys
the
And we said the
timeframe,
week of Thanksgiving is not good, the 21st.
Okay.
Mrs. Flynn has a meeting for the trip. Her,
Oh,
What time?
I don't
What's
remember.
Well,
November
that's
21st?
on November
Half a
21st?
dozen.
Yeah.
what did we say, November 15th, no good?
Are you talking
It's a
about
Tuesday.
board meet for the?
Yeah.
You don't want to do it
Bulldogs
Tuesday?
And beyond or
15th
whatever.
Yeah.
conferences for-
Oh,
She could probably flex that, but I don't know. We can.
we're
ask.
busy.
We are busy. Got a lot going on here, Brad.
What was wrong with the 28th or 29th?
Jason won't be here for
Jason's gone.
28.
Yeah, we can do it the 28th.
Jason's gone.
28th? Okay, I'm game with the 28th.
Do the 28th,
Okay,
better.
As long as it fits everything else.
I'm just gonna plug it into.
I guess he
sort
can't
of-
get off easy.
The 28th at 6?
What are we calling this?
I would call it a strategic planning.
Plan on our 4-day week.
Yeah.
Give people real fun.
I'm putting this on my calendar right now. I'll morph it into whatever needs to be on the
Just
other.
put meeting to adopt 4-day school week.
Oh, well, that'll be
Everybody
We
will
better
be.
hold that in the gym, yeah.
Um,
On the 28th at 6.
Okay, I'll just put it in my calendar right now until we iron that all out. That way it won't go out on the big calendar quite yet.
Okay, well, that one only took us half an hour.
Yeah, imagine how long this meeting's gonna be.
Okay, the next one I want to talk about, well, let's do the election day. So November 8th is our next board meeting, but it is election day, so they will be occupying this room. So we can either move the location of our board meeting to a different room and have it the same night, or we can move the date of the board meeting.
Yes.
We saw how that's gonna work.
You can have it, you can have
It'd be
it,
the 8th, correct?
Yeah, that's the board meeting date.
you can have it in the commons.
The 8th
Or
somewhere
on the-
else or the
or-
15th in here.
Up on the learning stairs, we can sit like your
That doesn't sound very
devoted
comfortable.
pupils. We can have the lecture.
For 3
My
hours.
backside already hurts.
Yeah, no,
We
it
can
does
bring
not
our
sound
Grizz
They have the
chairs.
little pillows you can sit on.
concrete for a couple hours plus.
Doesn't matter to me.
And
We
that,
almost got out in a different building just because there's so much
Yeah.
traffic
Yeah.
in and out of
the
here.
7th, they're gonna be
We've used that
setting
room
up.
next
They've
door
asked to
before,
reserve
but
it, yeah.
The commons really wouldn't be that bad, would it?
No, I think that would be okay.
Keep it on the 8th.
Bet you it'll be warmer.
So,
Oh, no, it won't.
yeah, they turn the heat off.
Okay, so
Or-
school board meeting on the 8th, we're
Except for
gonna
that.
move to the elementary commons, right? I'll
Another-
change that right now.
Certain-
Unless you have an idea, Brad.
No, I just noticed we also have a junior high basketball game scheduled at home that night. That's not really that great of an idea for parking and stuff, but we've had issues with that, but parking for people when they're coming to vote. But
Okay, and then the last one, I guess, on the discussion of the evaluation tool. As a board, do we want to break that down into a committee to start that? Do we want to have a work session? How do we want to work on adopting or presenting changes to reformat that tool if we're going to do that?
I would prefer a work session.
And just do all of us together?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the next question, now you gotta pick a date.
How about the 14th or 28th?
And that needs to be ready by December, or
We would
whatever
have-
the meeting
yeah,
day
we
in
have to
December.
adopt it at the December meeting in
Okay.
order to have it
All right.
usable for the January evaluation.
Right, okay. And I'm game with
Why don't we use
whatever, I'm
our
tired.
former
It's
proposed
time to
date
go home.
for the strategic planning meeting of like the 14th or the 15th and make our work session that.
My calendar locked up, I can't do anything.
Yeah, because those events don't really impact you guys
Yeah,
much.
the 15th, we
not-
have
yeah,
parent
not
teacher
for
I mean,
work
conference.
session.
you possibly, I guess, for
Parent
parent
teacher,
teacher conferences.
K2, it's
But-
K, it's K2.
So I got the K.
You got a K. That's right, you have a K.
Every day I read my day. Only, she came home and said, class of 2035, and I went, wow.
Boy, that makes-
Oh, no, that's my granddaughter too. Oh my God, that
Wow.
sounds so old.
Yeah.
That does make you feel old,
What
doesn't
did
it?
we decide? The 14th or the 15th, Monday or Tuesday?
I would pick the 15th just because I'm already here for the construction meeting. But
Fantastic. Should we
I
make
think,
it,
Sure.
since it's us,
Well, and if we just do a little homework
But-
first, it can come together pretty quickly, I think, or reasonably well.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why I tried to send
Yeah,
out those
yeah.
ones if somebody else want to bring something, but that's why I was hoping to get,
Yeah,
everybody do
yeah,
a
and
little bit of
Susie brought
groundwork.
some
Yeah.
links and stuff as well, so, yeah.
5 o'clock, 6 o'clock?
What day is it?
Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. Probably 5:30 or something. If you want to shoot for 5, I can shoot for that, but I'm not gonna promise it.
Okay, yeah, with your, I mean.
It might be 5:30ish by the time I get here. I've got class till 5:30.
Like, I'm not a math wizard, but that doesn't work.
6 o'clock will work. Well, we haven't seen how Sean drives.
That might be why you're so busy, Sean. You're double booking everything.
You know, I was thinking about this earlier. I try to get 65 minutes out of every hour. That's kind of what I try to do.
6 o'clock, okay.
That'll give you
Thank
time
you.
to do your parent teacher conference too.
Okay, November 15th, 6 o'clock. We'll do a work session.
And am I attending as well?
Yes,
It's
yes.
K2. Oh, no, no, we're just doing it.
And it's got to be posted.
I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's got to be posted, so. All right. Very, very good. Anybody else have anything else? Okay. Next, the board is going to have a discussion with the district clerk. So I have determined that the next matter to come before the board for consideration involves a matter of individual privacy. Further, the demands of individual privacy in this matter clearly exceed the merits of public disclosure. Therefore, I'm declaring this portion of the meeting will be closed in accordance with section 2-3, 2033 MCA. So we will recess for 5-10 minutes for everybody to clear out and go take a break for a second, and we'll come back.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joe.